Existence is not enough, maybe a strange moral to take away from a show about two girls making snow angels in a post-apocalyptic world. But that very same show left an impact on me like no other. A seemingly contradictory message that simply existing is not enough, and yet that life can be and is great, and is worth giving it your all. A warning before we begin. There will be spoilers in this video, a discussion of the manga's ending, and more. If you haven't watched the show, I highly recommend you do. If you haven't read the manga's ending, that being the last 2 volumes, I highly recommend you do. Let's begin. I watched Girls' Last Tour back in April, and we're all well aware of the situation the world was in then, and still is. I followed up watching the show with reading the manga since it fascinated me and I wanted to see how it ended. The manga of Girls' Last Tour has an ending so perfect it beggars belief. I often have an empty feeling after finishing a great show or book, or even occasionally game, though it has been many years since one has left me that way. Maybe Hotline Miami 2 or Gods Will Be Watching. Girls' Last Tour, on the other hand, left me hollow. I was crying as I read and reread the end of the manga, completely and utterly destroyed. The recovery period from being so forcibly gut-punched took a few days, and it still sticks in my mind as I write this script, the manga drawing back the feelings that I had when I first read it. I'm finally making this video to put some of those to rest, but also to memorialize them, as I'm almost afraid to re-watch it. For the risk that the emotions won't be the same. That may be an irrational fear, but it's a fear nevertheless. I have a deep love for tales and the emotions they bring. One of my favorite styles of music is Filk, because it's full of examples like this, like The Pilot's Eyes or Some Kind of Hero. To give an example my audience will be far more familiar with, the reason Sabaton is so highly regarded is the swell you get in your chest when you hear tales of boundless courage and bravery. I relate to these stories and find myself uplifted, inspired, or devastated. One of the highest marks of pride from any of my own videos is when someone simply says they felt different after watching it. Perhaps I'm glad that I find it easy for media to make me feel this way, because recently life certainly hasn't. This year has been an unhappy one for me, to say the least, though it's mostly been a slow burn of exhaustion and loneliness. With my attempts to finally meet friends I haven't seen in over a year cancelled, and my intentions to do something new denied. I'm well aware it's for the best, but that doesn't make it suck any less. 2 events stand out in this year where my emotions spiked beyond a level of just apathy. Reading Girls' Last Tour, and the burial of my dog. I won't begin to compare the two. It goes without saying that one was infinitely harder than the other. But Girls' Last Tour shocked my emotions hard enough for it to stand out in a bland year where the months blend together. I remember it. The show is a beautiful look at 2 girls touring humanity, seeing what weird shit we get up to, and eating the food they find in our fridge. Most post-apocalypse shows focus on hope. Sure, the wasteland might be an awful, radiated place that even after 200 years is somehow still barren, but we built a city out of random scrap we found. Girls' Last Tour, on the other hand, focuses on hopelessness. Describing it as a post-apocalypse show is, in my opinion, wrong. Fallout is post-apocalypse. Stars Without Number is post-apocalypse. Girls' Last Tour? We've got so many posts, we're starting to look like Jagreg describing irony. Girls' Last Tour is a world where, at the very minimum, massive cities were built that took over the planet, and then giant robots blew lots of them up. However, after that, society proceeded to fight even more wars in the ruins of the cities, this time with older World War II era equipment. Take that, Einstein. After that, even further conflict took place as the very last survivors turned on each other, and thus begins our adventure. The girls do not enter the story with a lofty goal. In fact, they can't even remember why they were trying to reach the top of the city until much later on. Humanity has already lost. The story is about getting along with the feeling of hopelessness and living in spite of it. But the amazing thing that, forgive me here, Tsukumitsu carefully places in is hope. See, hopelessness in a vacuum is not that hard to deal with. Think about it. You're in deep space, forgive the pun, nothing around, and your air is going to run out. You are hopeless. I won't say that's not terrifying, I won't say it isn't depressing and you wouldn't feel awful. But I can tell you how to make you feel even worse, because I'm helpful like that. You're in deep space, your air is going to run out. and just out of your reach is a tether. It could drag you back to your pod and you might have air and be safe there for a time. That tether is hope, however false, however faint. To me, I would give everything to reach that rope. I am the sort to rage against the dying of the light, though I've never been given the chance. But Chito and Yuuri are not that way. They turn away from the tether because they just saw a cool group of stars over there. If things are going to end, and they will, they might as well end them with a beautiful view. When there is nothing you can do, it is the easy choice to be nihilistic and accept your fate. It's much harder to risk your life to commit to your nihilism. To realize that you could have turned back, that there was always a chance that you missed something better. One translation of the amazing opening song I saw noted this, and in the final moments of the manga, Chito mentions how she simply isn't sure she was right. What if there was a better choice? And then Yuuri hits her in the face with a snowball. I think the fact that this story was able to convince a stubborn arsehole like me that she and you were right speaks volumes to how well it is told. Chi and Yu are destructive forces on their environment as they move up. The idea of destroying irreplaceable buildings and technology that could be used to survive is anathema to me, but the girls destroy a robot just because they wanted to save a fish. There was no reason the fish was doomed, but they were happier providing it just a moment's more life. Because everything is doomed. The fish, the robot, the entire city they stand in. I related heavily with Chi as she documents their travels and collects books, in her own way attempting to learn and catalogue to save something of humanity for no one to read. Yu, on the other hand, tosses books onto the fire because she wanted to be warm. The manga shows us that, in the end, Yu's method wins out. Chi was clinging to a hope that didn't exist, instead of enjoying the warmth that could, however fleeting. Which brings us to the ending itself. The two girls die. Our two potatoes expire. On a barren slate, humanity ends. I tend to enjoy realism in stories and the spirit of humanity, fuck yeah. Which is why it's so odd for me to say that this, without a doubt, is narratively one of the best endings for a series of anything I've ever seen. I'm sorry, man on Reddit who calculated that they could survive. Farewell, rocket scene that implies there's a potential humans left Earth to try again elsewhere. Sayonara, the idea that this black slab is a teleporter. But the theory that the two girls jumped off the side of the city and plummeted to their death since the last pages of the manga were a descending view of the city, you can go fuck yourself. Just way over there. Go fuck yourself. I believe the ending is as simple as the manga shows. The girls go to sleep and never awaken. I think it's a testament to the writing that people will desperately try to find a way to prove that these girls lived on, and I find myself wishing I believed in an afterlife for these two moe blobs. Thankfully, if you're as broken as I was, Tsukumitsu's next work, Shimiji's Simulation, will just utterly confuse you and will help take the sting off a bit. Go read it, it's a slower start, but it's quite good. I believe this ending is as perfect as it gets because the end was always coming. It was just a matter of when. Imagine, if you would, that the girls survive and somehow make it back down and then find some food. They live on for 30 more years, let's say, and then die. What was the point? Instead, after losing everything, the girls make their final journey together, admitting their fear of death and bravely carrying on despite it. They find solace in each other's presence, comfort in the idea that what is this world but their own perception of it? They reach their final goal, the top of the city, and there is nothing. A flat, barren slate with a black slab upon it. They have won. As Chi looks like she'll fall to despair, Yu saves her from it with a snowball fight. A snowball fight that the anime puts in the ending of every single episode, the utter bastards. Yuuri, for once, speaks as the voice of reason, that there is no way to know the right thing. But wasn't it fun, just being together? The two girls head to the edge of the world and enjoy a laugh together at being the happiest and saddest people alive. This is the last of humanity, laughing at the absurdity of it all. The girls are finished with their tour, they've had their fun, there's nothing left to do, and they are content. Existence is not enough simply means that living to live is pointless. 1,000 years of tedium cannot hold a candle to one of excitement. The girls could have fought on to survive for longer, certainly, but they instead chose to live their life to the fullest, to squeeze every drop of enjoyment from it, and then go out on their own terms, happily tucked in for the curtain call, as opposed to wasting away in a desperate attempt to have just more one night. It hurts because I don't want to accept it. I'd rather the girls found civilization. I rationalize the best methods to survive. I can't accept hopelessness. The beauty of the ending is that, despite my opposition to it, I still agree with it. You is right. Despite our wishes, everything ends, and our potatoes got a perfect ending. Not nice, not happy, but perfect. Do I believe the series as a whole is perfect? No, a few things stand out as odd at times, like the mushroom creatures who seem to appear just to remove Nuko so he won't have to suffer the ending, and to give information that frankly seems unreliable. I felt ambiguity makes Chi's dilemma harder than any confirmation of their hopelessness, but it will absolutely stick with me thanks to an ending like no other. This year for me has felt like one of simple existence. I wake up, work, eat, sleep. If I'm lucky, I get drunk or otherwise somewhere in between. My attempts to change this were blocked by the lockdown in a soul-crushing fashion, but I've decided to keep on trying. I originally moved away from Hearts of Iron because the feeling of doing the same thing my entire life led me down a fast path to pulling a Harold Holt. The support on my videos since then has enabled me to branch out further, and for that I will be forever grateful. But I'm 21. This should be the highlight of my life, and I'm stuck on repeat. I've decided to not let that stop me. I'm trying new things, I'm reading again, pushing myself to learn a language, starting new projects I otherwise would not have done. I will try Maiden Abyss. I've commissioned something special for the channel, and I've started writing again, a passion I left long ago. Maybe one day I'll learn how to write a protagonist who isn't an awful human being. Hell, I've even kept up my training for the events that were cancelled. I went for a walk, saw a hill in the distance, and decided, fuck it, I'm climbing it. Only I didn't find a black slab in depression, I found some goddamn emus. In fact, this video itself is something new, something I've wanted to do for a while. I've made video essays before, but always about games, and less about tales and life. I don't think it will magically make me happy, and I don't know what will. It's hard to shake an apathetic state and genuinely care about something or someone. But I feel more alive writing this script than I have all week, even when it hurt. Existence is not enough, and it's up to me to make something of my time. Since the option to get endlessly plastered with my mates is off the books, you lot are stuck listening to me wax poetic instead. I hope you enjoyed. When my time comes, whenever that may be, I only hope I'll be able to look back and say, living sure was the best, wasn't it? Whether it's with tears in my eyes, fists curled in defiance, a smile on my lips, or all of them at the same time.